arrows. One arrow will be marked like God ordered this thing, I should do it. Another one, God forbid this thing, I should not do it. The third one will be blank, not marked with anything. So now you have 3 arrows. One is saying I should do it, God wants me to do it. One is saying no, God doesn't want this, and the other will be blank. So the arrows would then be thrown. So the arrow that go the furthest, among the 3 of them, you throw all the 3, then the one that go the furthest will be the one that will decide the decision at that point in time. So that is one method. In another method, the arrows will not be thrown. It will just be, the arrows will just be placed in a bag called quiver. There will be one at the back. So the arrows will be there. So it could be numbered up to 7 arrows. Okay? Then those arrows will be shuffled randomly. Will be shuffled, then placed in the bag. Then you just draw one of them. You are going to draw one of them. Any arrow you draw will indicate the decision you are going to follow at that point in time. If a black arrow is drawn, it means you have to repeat the process. You put it back into the quiver and then redraw. So that is how bolomancy is performed in the ancient Arabia. Now, what do they use bolomancy for? At times, it may be for circumcision process. At times, it may be for burial process. At times, it may be for wedding process. At times, it may be for paternity dispute when a paternity is in question. It's questionable. They can also conduct bolomancy, and a lost traveler can also perform bolomancy to know the right direction to follow. So this is the kind of divination Abdul Muttalib urged his children to. That's the most popular divination at that point in time. So he told the children, pick up your arrow of divination, pen down your name on the arrow, and follow me to Ubal idol in the Kaaba. The question now is, what is Ubal idol? Now let's talk about the Ubal idol. The Ubal idol is an idol in the image of a man, and it was placed in the heart of the Kaaba, that is right at the center of the Kaaba, on top of a well. There was a well that was dug in the middle of the Kaaba in that age. That well served the purpose of collecting sacrifice presented to the idols or treasures like jewelry, okay, or any other things like dirhams, dinars, given to the idols, given to Allah himself. Anything that is given to Allah or idols, it is collected so that it will not constitute a refuse to the Kaaba. They collect everything into that well dug in the center of the Kaaba. So on top of that well, an idol in the image of a man was placed there, and that idol was called Hubal. Hubal. So that's the name of the idol. So it is an idol of divination. Whenever they want to perform bolomancy in Mecca, they have to come to the Hubal idol in the Kaaba to perform bolomancy. And there is a priest in charge of that bolomancy. The priest will be known as the chief bolomancer. So it is the chief priest that will conduct that divination for them. So Abdul Muttalib told his children, his male children, to pick up the arrows of divination and follow him to the chief bolomancer at the point of Hubal idol in the Kaaba. This they did. So what happened next? Stay tuned. Don't go away. Now, they approached the chief Bolomansa and the process began. Meanwhile, Abdul Muttalib, the most beloved son to Abdul Muttalib, was Abdullah, who was the last born. You see, Abdullah, Abu Talib, and Zubair, the three of them, they were from the same womb for Abdul Muttalib. So Abdullah was the last born of Abdul Muttalib, and he is the most loved to his father. So Abdul Muttalib believed that the divination must fall upon Abdullah, because that was his favorite son. So he believed Abdullah should be the one chosen for the sacrifice. So, and he believed that anything otherwise would tantamount to an error. So the Sheikh Bolomansa started conducting the divination, and during that time, Abdul Muttalib stood up. He started praying to Allah that, oh Allah, please accept Abdullah as a sacrifice, because he is my beloved. Look at that man. He was even telling Allah to choose Abdullah. The chief Bolomansa, the chief priest, he began to conduct the divination. And eventually, Abdullah was chosen for sacrifice. The next thing for Abdul Muttalib was to say, Alhamdulillah, my wish has come to true. He just picked up his knife on one hand, pick up Abdullah on the other hand, and he began the journey to another two stone idols known as Isaf and Naila to sacrifice Abdullah for Allah, not idols. Note that. The oath Abdul Muttalib made was to sacrifice one of his male children for Allah, not for idol. But in their culture, whenever they want to sacrifice an animal for Allah, it is at the Safa and Marwa hills. The Safa and Marwa are two hills facing themselves. That is where they used to sacrifice an animal for Allah. So Abdul Muttalib was to pick up his son and leave the Kaaba and go to the Safa and Marwa hills to sacrifice his last born. But at that point in time, the Safa hill was carrying an idol, a stone idol, known as Isaf. Al-Marwa was also carrying another idol, a stone idol, known as An-Naila. Now, let us look at the story surrounding these two idols, Isaf and Naila. Don't go away. You are here to learn. Those Salafi sects will not tell you all these stories. The stories that surround the Kaaba, that surround Hajj, that surround Mecca, that surround the culture of the Arabian Peninsula, they will not tell you, because they want to hide the truth. But I will release the fact. I will tell you all the stories that surround it. Don't go away. Now, as I was saying, at that point in time, the Safa hill, as Safa, was carrying a stone idol, while the Al-Marwa hill was also carrying a stone idol known as An-Naila. What is Isaf and Naila? They were actually and originally male and female, man and woman respectively, before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned them to stones. What did they do? What made Allah transform them into stone? It happened that they came from their respective destinations in the world to perform Hajj in Mecca. Isaf was a man. Naila was a woman. They came from different destinations. Naila was a very beautiful woman, just like Isaf was a handsome man. When they were performing the Hajj, they noticed privacy around the Kaaba. Nobody was present in the Kaaba. The whole place was vacant. So they took the opportunity of the privacy and entered into the Kaaba and committed a great sacrilegious sin, adultery, right inside the Kaaba. That was what they did. So it was right there, after they committed the adultery, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transformed them into stones. This story is recorded in a book called Kitab al-Asnam, the book of idols, authored by Ibn Kalbi. Okay, Ibn al-Kalbi, the book of idols. The story is referenced there. So that was how they became transformed into stones. So the Meccans, seeing this, they thought they should let the future generations learn a warning from this story so that they would desist from such. So they placed the two stones, they removed it from the Kaaba and placed them on Safa and Marwa hills. Later, they started deifying the two stones by giving them sacrifice and regarding them as deities because they were pagans. Now, Abdul Muttalib, don't forget that was the story we were telling. Abdul Muttalib and his oath of child sacrifice. He took his son, Abdullah, to Safa and Marwa at the stone of Isaf and Naila to sacrifice him to Allah. Upon reaching there and planning to sacrifice Abdullah, his kinsmen, the Quraysh, they gathered around him and asked him, "Oh Abdul Muttalib, what are you trying to do with Abdullah?" He said, "I would sacrifice him for Allah as an oath I had made." Then they disagreed with him. The Quraysh said, "You are not going to slaughter this boy. You would not. Don't slaughter Abdullah until all other options failed. So try and seek for alternative. Try and seek for other options." They now told him, if you slaughter this boy today, the Arab people would emulate you and would start sacrificing their male child to Isaf and Naila. And would that be a good model? Think about this. That was what they told Abdul Muttalib. Then he had a rethink. And then the Quraysh advised him to go and approach a confessor and seek for an advice from her. Who was that confessor? The confessor was a woman living far away in Khaybar. Khaybar is 150 kilometers from Medina. So, Abdul Muttalib picked up Abdullah and some of his male children. They began the journey to Khaybar to visit the female confessor. They went to Khaybar. Upon reaching Khaybar, they met this woman. The woman was a confessor using a jinn. The jinn is like what do we call this? That is installed in the space. Satellite. So, jinn then were used as satellites to view what is happening in the world beyond. So, the woman said, my jinn satellite was not available at the moment. So, come back another day. So, they came early morning the next day. They explained all what it was happening to Abdullah, the case of the oath. They explained everything to this woman confessor. And then the woman said, my jinn satellite had already informed me of why you people were here. Now, the woman confessor asked them, what was the blood money in your location? If you were to pay a ransom for a life that was lost, what